it's time for Game Club.
We're doing it. No Gus today.
No Gus.
But
Gus ran away.
I do want to read Gus's review of this game, okay? Because I picked this game, and Gus has never once liked a game I picked. And Gus finally, he said, I liked it very much.
And for the record, we're talking about Her Story. It's a game that came out last year. It's an indie title by Sam Barstow that won a ton of awards. It's like a return to FMV, because that's all it is.
Yes.
It's all clips, like film clips of an interview, of like police interviews of this chick, except two chicks who are identical twins.
Well, the spoiler.
Well, this is a spoiler show.
Don't
fucking watch the show if you haven't played it.
For later in the
Basically,
discussion.
This dude Simon gets himself killed.
Shank.
And
not shank.
And they have to figure out like who done it.
Right.
It's not like he tripped
and they're
and fell
interviewing
on
his
glass.
wife.
Right.
His wife Hannah.
Right.
Hannah. And then so you go through the mechanic of this game I think is really cool, which is that you have to search keywords, and then any clips in which that word is mentioned will come up, but you can only see 5. So you can't say like something really general and see all the clips.
Except for blank.
But you can't see, you can only see 5.
So bring them all up, and then there's a cheat code that lets you actually have more than 5. I didn't use it, but
Stop cheating.
Stop that.
I didn't actually use it, but you can do that.
Well,
if you want to go back later and like review it.
You're not supposed to be able to do it. And it's basically like a game of sort of like taking notes for like interesting words that you hear her say that you think she might say over and over again. And it's all one woman, one actress in this whole game. And she ends up being, she has a twin. But there has to be 2 twins, because I played this game when it came out, and I did not play it again for Game Club. But
so there are a couple of diverging fan theories of what could be, because there's no definitive ending to the game.
Well, there's 2 like answers, and one is right, but he won't say which one.
Right. So one of the going fan theories is that it's all one woman with like maybe
multiple
personalities, something like that. And the other is that they are, in fact, identical twins.
But, I mean, there's a lot of pushback on the it's only one woman thing.
There's a lot of pushback on both of them.
There seems to be a lot of physical evidence, not the least of which is, if these are actual police officers, fingerprint them.
Well, but not all these stories are really like the sort of stuff that you'd be talking to police about anyway. Yeah. So at some point, I don't know, at some point you just take the suspension of disbelief that all these police interviews, it's like, yeah, sure, they're talking about fairy tales and growing up together. That makes sense.
Well, you never know. On the first 48, sometimes they talk about other stuff. I love crime shows.
They try to work around it. Yeah, they try and get you in the talking mood.
Let's just talk about stuff.
Well, they do that a ton in this. Like, there's all the allegories, like the fairy tales, and there's the story of Rapunzel, and then a chick busts out a guitar because that was in a police interview and sings them a song about an older sister who drowned her younger sister because a dude loved the younger sister instead. It's like,
that's
what?
Pretty,
that was an interesting choice of song.
So
real random.
It's been as much as I picked up on some of it, but the amount of little details that people really caught on to, like even how they like their drinks, is how you start to be able to differentiate between the 2 sisters. But essentially, it's still, I wouldn't say necessarily a game. It's more of a visual novel. There's no...
Yeah, it's an interactive narrative.
Yeah, it's at best a puzzle game.
Yeah.
Like not a point and click, but like a mind puzzle game.
Well, the thing is, a puzzle game has a solution.
It does, but this game has... So, can you go back to Ryan's shot? Yeah, hey. I didn't realize I'm so far in the shot.
Just like ducking in going, hey, what's up?
Hey.
Interesting that you should say that.
So that's one of the things about this game, though, is that there's no definitive ending, which is... It's unusual for a lot of games, and it's kind of cool to leave it open-ended, except... Take it away, Meg.
Yes, except for the guy who made the game said there are 2 endings out there that people have kind of brought it down to.
Well,
we should go over what those endings are.
I mean, broad strokes, the 2 ideas are they're different people or they're same people.
Right.
Like, there are sort of subclasses of each different camp and what their specific theories are, but those are the 2 camps.
Essentially... She has a sister. The long and short of the story is essentially it's twins, separated birth. They meet up later, and then essentially one of them moves into the attic.
Yeah,
right.
And then
she
they
lives
just
in the attic
pretend
forever.
they're one person throughout the rest of their lives until one of them, Hannah, gets married to a guy, Simon, who she does not want to share. So they don't switch out with Simon, and then Simon later meets Hannah.
Meets
Eve,
the other sister, who while she's singing in a club and wearing a wig. Which is why maybe he doesn't immediately go, "You're my wife."
That's my wife with the wig on.
and then they hook up, and she gets pregnant, and Hannah is, by all accounts, not happy about it.
Sure.
So,
What? Weird.
So weird.
But the divergence being, did Eve exist? Is it an actual physical sister, or is it just that Hannah's mind was broken?
And the guy who made the game says, one of those is true, I won't tell you which one.
Which kind of like ruins the beauty of the ambiguity.
Yes.
The idea being that like you take your belief, you take your theory, and that could be right. He's saying, no, one is right.
I guess the other salient point here is, so Eve eventually tells it all it admits to being a separate person. Initially, they're playing off as they're still just one person, and they're switching off during the interviews. Eve eventually cracks and admits that she is not the same person, and then blames the murder on Hannah.
Right.
Correct? Right, okay. So, and then by the end of it, we're left with just Eve. So if it is one person claiming to be two people, then she didn't commit the murder, but she did. But in the eyes of the police, her story is that she's not the person that killed Simon.
Right.
So Barlow said in an interview, I was pulling it up, because he said some interesting things like, the interesting aspect to all of the endings is that they're all just different angles on the same idea. I guess it's less important for me to define the duality people are talking about, and probably unlikely to come out and express my opinion on that. I always loathe to express my opinion on any of that because I don't think it's necessary.
But hold on, let me go ahead and express my opinion on that.
So then he said, my notes and my current understanding is that there's a definitive version of the story that I have in my head, certainly of what happened prior to the various interviews. This was important as well because all of the detectives' dialogue was fully scripted. Obviously, when we remove all the questions of the detectives, there are a lot more questions, but for the detectives to be there asking questions and have their line of inquiry, that would have to be quite well thought out. So he has the story thought out, has his own definitive ending, will not tell us which one.
Right, exactly what the questions were and what the answers to those various questions were, and like what the specific narrative is. So he's just going, I know there's a right answer, but I'm not going to tell you.
Well,
there
he's
is
saying
a
that
right
there's
answer.
a right answer for him.
Right.
He's
He
not,
made it. He could
he's
be
not
saying,
forbidding-
Isn't that canon?
but it's kind of one of those things, right? Like we
just
were
secret
talking
canon.
about this recently, right? Where people take books and they're like, oh, it's all about this and that and the other thing, and it's what people make of the book, as opposed to what the author. We were like, Animal Farm, totally not an allegory
Yeah.
whatsoever. That guy just liked animals, and people are like,
Could be.
could be the Russian Revolution.
After the fact, people will shoehorn
And
in
then
a
it
bunch of
does.
stuff.
You
I
know
was
what I
in high
mean?
school English classes. I sure made up a lot of nonsense.
Oh, man, you
Man
can-
versus himself.
You
Absolutely.
can symbolize anything you want
Sure.
in a
Exactly.
high school English class.
This is
Thank
so
you.
deep.
The dog represents racism. I understand it.
Ah, it all makes sense now.
Oh, English.
So it could, I mean, he doesn't preclude other answers. He
That's
just
true.
says that,
That's very true.
of course, when he made it, he had an idea. I mean, that's kind of goes without saying. I don't think you would make something that
Put it behind a
didn't mean
spoiler
anything to
tag.
you.
Be like, here's what I was thinking, and then let me click the image that's not
But
safe
then
for
he
work,
makes
and
it the
then-
answer.
But I want it. I want to know the answer.
So the problem is too that there are holes in both versions of that story. The big argument in favor of a split personality angle is an 8-year-old girl was living with a midwife on the same street, and nobody noticed the two girls were identical, and either the lady fell or was pushed or something, fell down the stairs, died. Eve walks out, walks to the other girl's house. She says, "Come in, please live in my attic," and her parents never knew, ever.
Yeah.
Like, you can't hide a raccoon in an attic, let alone an 8-year-old girl. Forever. She lived in the dollhouse? Really? Come on.
I guess that's true. Maybe the dollhouse is like her fragile mind, where this lady, you know what I mean, where this personality resides. But don't they? One of them has tattoos, right? Like,
Eve has a tattoo on her arm. I think her left arm. But I mean, it's possible that is like painted on. I mean, there's ways that she could get around that. It depends on how far down that rabbit hole you want to go. It's like, how far has she gone to construct this alternate reality, this alternate personality?
I guess though, I don't really know that much about schizophrenia, but I don't imagine that you're like, I will now become Eve. Hold on, allow me to apply my tattoo and dress up as Eve. I don't know how. Like, I
don't know.
would think you just become that person, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should have watched, was it the United States of Terra before this to learn a little bit more about split personality? Because
Yes.
I don't know a lot about it.
No
So we
clue.
don't know, but in that one, a lot of the I do know at least that the different personalities had different clothing styles and different, outlooks on the world, and they looked quite different. And I don't know if that was just an affectation for the show to visually symbolize what character she was at the time, but maybe that's part of the vagary of all this. Is it's like there was also in one interview she had a bruise, but then when asked about it later, she was like reminded of it. She touched the wrong side of her face, the face that wasn't bruised, which then led people to believe that the bruise was an affectation and it was never a real bruise in the first place, or that it was the other sister, and she didn't have the right details about where the bruise had been. Like maybe their diary wasn't up to snuff.
And here's the other thing that was interesting is when people were treating it as two sisters. So when it is treated as two sisters, Eve is the one that eventually tells the story of who got or why Simon was murdered.
But doesn't she also tell it as based on what Hannah told her? Because she theoretically wasn't there for it.
Right, but at that point, Hannah doesn't show up again. Like, you get to a point where Hannah no longer is in the interviews, and Eve is the only one there. And people have gone so far as to notice that she's doing a tap code on the table.
I noticed that.
By Hannah.
She also what
spells out by Hannah?
That is if people have actually done the
Morse code?
It's not Morse. It's a tap. It's like for prisoners of war. It's a tap code. She does the same tapping thing right after the first time she mentions Eve. And like she mentioned her in an interview or something, like it's a part where it seems like the detectives are out of the room but the camera's still running, and she's got her head down and she's like, why are you talking about Eve? Like she's reprimanding herself, but she's tapping with both of her, like with her fingers, and it's clearly a pattern. It's not just like a random thing, and it's like nice, hard, solid taps.
Can we just take 5 seconds to say how well this woman carried this whole game?
Oh, yeah.
She was a phenomenal.
Do you think she knows what the right answer is?
Maybe. Well, here's the thing:
she heard the detectives.
Yeah, like the detectives had scripted dialogue. Right. At least we don't see it, and they talk in the interview about Barlow saying he was going to release the questions, but he decided against it. So she at least knows the questions.
The other thing I was going to say, I was kind of driving at there, was so Eve is the one that relates the story of the murder, and Eve is the only one left at the end, so there's no one to countermand the story. And we don't really, everyone that Eve has dealt with ends up dead.
Is Hannah dead?
Well, is Hannah dead, and did Eve really kill Simon?
R.I.P. the wig. What?
There you go.
Oh, is that what she's tapping?
No idea.
That would be funny. But did Eve actually kill Simon and then just blame it on Hannah?
Oh, and then kill Hannah so there was no witness? Oh, there's so many questions.
Yeah.
You know who else played this game and was giving me so many questions? Jason, who does like a lot of camera work for live action and stuff. He played it, and after that 5K we ran together, we were talking about her story. He was really nuts for that game.
So I get the first time she mentions the first time she mentions Eve and then does the tap code, she's apparently saying, she taps out "love you," and then another tap code she apparently taps out "bide Hannah." Not by, but by. It's like a D and 7E, but it's basically by Hannah.
There's some debate about that one, yeah. So whether she tapped it wrong or if it was, if it means something else. But I think everybody seems to think it by Hannah was what it was. Like Hannah at that point is gone.
What a bummer if you're like editing the game and you're like, yeah, she nailed it, whatever. And she accidentally she accidentally tapped out like, fuck you, I hate this, didn't get my lunch.
I mean, I wonder why she even knows tap code.
Right. Why? Because she's a prisoner of her own mind, Ryan.
Special forces.
Clearly their parents didn't.
Yeah.
Were they dead?
What's all that fucking tapping? I don't know.
Who cares? Sounds like she's saying bye, Hannah.
Don't want to check the attic though. That would be crazy.
Well, it's spooky up there.
It is spooky.
Yeah,
to be fair,
one goes to the attic.
Gavin took the cat upstairs that one time we heard tapping.
Also,
in case it was a
this
demon.
is how into like all the little details fans have gotten. They've noticed that Eve's tap code is sloppy. Which potentially accounts for the misspelling and things like that, whereas Hannah's is pristine. Even the two of them tap code differently.
I wonder which one of them is the Tyler Durden of the situation.
Right.
So she just needs to shotgun herself in the face and then see what happens.
And then face the murder charges, I guess.
I don't know. What are you doing to Eve? Oh, that's her tapping.
Yes. Yeah, and it's very obvious when it happens because it's so deliberate.
Love you.
Love you. All right, well, what do you think? Final verdict?
How much was it?
It was like $6, like $5 or $6 on Steam. So for $5 or $6, it's a really cool experience to have. Like as a game, I was bored out of my mind. Like it's not the kind of game I would pick up on my own and be like, you know what I really wanted to do tonight? I wanted to watch like police interrogation
But not
videos.
like in one contiguous stream. You
Yeah, I
want
just
to watch
wanna
it in
watch
like
some, like,
7-second snippets.
Exactly. So like that's not really my
That
thing.
was frustrating.
But
You got to admit.
I feel like it's as a puzzle, it was well put together. It was cool. Actress did an amazing job. So kudos to her.
Yeah, I think definitely worth it. I guess Gus and I have sort of a different taste.
Yeah,
from
you
the
love
rest of the
paperwork
group.
simulators
Yeah.
and police interrogation.
Yeah, but it's
puzzles,
like this
so-
was like a cool game, so it was like taking notes and like kind of digging in. I love murder
Focused.
mysteries. I like to watch forensic files in my spare time. So I felt like an investigator. I love this game. I thought it was really cool. I thought the way it unraveled the narrative was really interesting. The way it kind of like you'd feel so smart for coming up with the term, and then you'd be like, "This is clearly what they wanted me to search
They
next."
led me to this, yeah.
Yeah, but so I really liked it. I think it's definitely to be experienced.
It is
But-
a very cool exploration in design in that way. Like they have to lead you, they have to make the keywords obvious enough that you'll think to search for them, but not so obvious that you're like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
You
No,
gotta,
it's very
they make
cool.
you want it. They got to make it work for it.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, like, there is a reason though, as much as I loved it, that I didn't play it again for Game Club because I feel like I've had the experience.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically, this verdict is kind of pointless. I'd say it's probably worth the $6, but if you just heard us talk about it, it's not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also doesn't take that long to play. It's
No.
like
It's very short.
3 hours maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Very
you know
true.
somewhere in that time range, because really you're just watching stuff and then putting in a time thing. So it's
Yeah. Once the secrets are out, too, it's...
And also, I didn't like the ending bit of it because it doesn't have a definitive end. I didn't like the like, "Are you done now?" And it's like, okay, yes, I guess, and then you just exit the game. Like,
okay. Now one last question about the game. Who are you?
you are the baby. You're the grown-up.
You
baby.
think you're Sarah?
I think you're
Really?
the baby.
Baby
grown-up.
Sarah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. That's a good question.
I think you're the baby grown up because I thought the answer was like, do you understand why she did what she did? And it sounds like you're maybe the baby of like why your dad was. You're trying to figure out why your dad was murdered.
Gotcha.
That's my.
I was wondering because like every now and again the lights would flash and just enough to give you a reflection
Yeah.
to make you wonder about that.
Yep.
Oh, I turned off the glare. I wonder if I missed that.
You might have.
Because that was really annoying to look at. There's the
Like
it's got
the
like a
fluorescent-
simulated
yeah.
Like
CRT
one like a
screen
fluorescent
effect.
like fluorescent flicker, like the lights coming and going. So every now and again you get the glare on the screen, and it's usually just like lights in the background, but every now and again it's a face. And for a little while I didn't realize it was this supposed to be a reflection. I was like, whose face is that and why is it here? Oh, that's my
It's
face.
me.
It's me. I'm Mario. Should we pick a new one?
Yeah,
Let's
do
pick
it.
a new game.
Bring out the cylinder.
The cylinder
Skippy, we
Cylinder
should,
selects.
Find some more games.
We'll add some more.
All right, here we go. Stop.
Whoop whoop.
Okay.
What are we playing?
We are playing Hyper Light Drifter.
Woo!
What is that?
I don't know.
I know.
Let me look it up.
I shocked you. It didn't even say who suggested this.
I think that one is from Caden. So, Hyper Light Drifter is a 2D action RPG developed by Heart Machine. It's an homage to 8-bit and 16-bit games of the late 20th century.
All right.
I'm on board.
It's out on PS4, Xbox One, PS Vita, PC, Linux, Ouya, and Mac
Ouya?
OS. So,
Ouya.
Oh,
cool.
pretty
that
much
looks cool.
anything that you want to play a game on, you can get this on, except maybe 3DS.
Huh.
Yeah. All right. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Alright.
it's it looks like it's like $20 on Steam. It came out this year, so it's a pretty new game.
So we'll see you in June with Hyper Light Drifter.
Oh yeah, it's May now.
It
Holy
is May
crap.
now.
Bye guys.
Bye.
The campaign From Combat to Fighters occurs as an experience with loading times and delivers franchise moments that fans love.
All right.
Thank you for listening,
I
everyone.
mean, that's really funny. I mean,
Those are well tied together. Some of the adjectives, it turns out, are kind of necessary.
are kind of boring. Yeah.
Absolutely, but what fun is that?
We're introducing environments. It's a very important thing.
And loading time. Thank you.
Guaranteed loading times. I mean, The
If
trailer
anything-
wasn't that bad.
It really wasn't. It's just people wanted
It was flashy.
more.